Lily had never felt comfortable around water. Even the smallest puddle made her heart flutter with an uneasy beat, and the sensation was magnified tenfold when she stood near the ocean or walked along a lake shore. As a child, she had stood waist deep in the pool, her father smiling encouragingly from a nearby lounge chair. It was supposed to be a glorious summer day. The sun shimmered on the pool's surface, and her friends splashed gleefully. But the moment Lily tried to move forward, water filled her nose and mouth. She had gasped, coughed, and felt the panic swirl in her chest. Ever since, she had steered clear of anything more than a bathtub filled halfway. While family and friends tried to console her, urging her to learn to swim, Lily would only shake her head. The mere suggestion that she dip her foot into a communal pool was enough to make her tremble. She had grown into a reserved young woman, kind and intelligent, yet burdened with this hidden weight of fear. At family gatherings, people would tease and ask when she would finally learn to do more than just dog paddle. She would laugh it off, always offering some flimsy excuse to change the subject. Deep down, her reluctance wasn't casual. It felt as though someone had locked away an essential part of her. On an afternoon that was supposed to be ordinary, Lily found herself restless in her apartment. Sunshine poured in through the open windows, the breeze lifting the curtains. She breathed in the fresh air. It felt too stifling to remain indoors, so she decided she needed time outside, someplace calmer than the usual hustle of the city. She had heard about a hidden pond near the outskirts of town, where tall trees draped their branches over the water and rays of sunlight danced across the surface. A friend had once told her it was the perfect place to sit quietly and read or contemplate life, away from prying eyes. Although the thought of any body of water usually unsettled her, the rumors of the pond's postcard-like serenity piqued her curiosity. She drove there in her small, aging sedan, windows rolled down as the wind ruffled her hair. The directions led her along a winding road, past fields of wildflowers and tall grasses. Eventually, she arrived at a clearing with a makeshift dirt parking area. The air smelled of pine needles and wild honeysuckle. Lily stepped out, inhaling deeply, letting the crispness fill her lungs. A trail meandered through a cluster of tall trees, and she followed it carefully, hoping it would lead to the pond she had heard so much about. After a short walk, the landscape opened onto a calm, glassy stretch of water. Exactly as rumored, it looked like something from a nature magazine. Lily noticed a few benches near the bank, strategically placed in a quiet spot. Squirrels darted across branches overhead, and the occasional bird song broke the silence. Lily found herself relaxing, just a bit. She approached the water's edge, scuffing the toe of her shoe against the moist ground. Her heart gave a nervous little lurch, but in the presence of such peaceful beauty, her fear didn't loom so large. Maybe, she thought, I can sit here for a while and breathe in this tranquility. She was just settling onto one of the benches when a faint sound of distress reached her ears. It was so soft she almost thought she had imagined it. She glanced around, scanning the tree line and the quiet water beyond. The cry echoed again, a pitiful mew that triggered an immediate response. Lily stood, carefully trying to isolate the direction of the noise. She stepped over fallen branches, followed by a swirl of leaves around her feet. Curiosity and concern guided her until she spotted movement near the water's edge to the right. In the taller reeds, something was struggling. Lily approached, heart pounding. Even before she confirmed the exact source, she recognized the shape as a small, tabby kitten. Its fur was drenched, tiny body trembling with desperate mews. The kitten was half in the water, clinging to a protruding rock with trembling paws. Its eyes were wide, watery, and frightened, as if pleading for someone to save it from the watery abyss. A jolt of helpless sympathy shot through Lily. She wanted to cry out for help herself, but there was no one around. The kitten was directly in front of her, in danger of slipping off the rock at any moment. She took a step forward. The muddy bank was slick beneath her sneakers, and she could barely keep her footing. At one point, water rose up to cover the toe of her shoe, and her breath caught in her throat. Memories of her childhood fiasco in the pool rushed back. Adrenaline pumped through her veins, but she pushed through the panic. She kept reminding herself that panic wouldn't help the kitten. She had to do something. She could either stand by letting this tiny life slip away, or she could risk stepping into the water just enough to scoop the kitten to safety. The thought of an innocent creature suffering was too devastating to bear. Her courage faltered, then sharpened again. She moved closer, trying to keep her weight balanced so she wouldn't slip further into the water. The kitten gave a frantic wail as water lapped over its belly. Its hind legs lost their grip on the rock. Without another thought, Lily leaned forward, plunging her arms in. The water engulfed her forearms, the shock of cold radiating up her body. She gasped, nearly losing her balance, but managed to curl her fingers around the kitten's scruff. In one swift motion, she lifted the little creature out of the water and held it against her chest. Her heart pounded so loudly she could scarcely hear her own ragged breaths. Mud coated the bottoms of her jeans, and her feet were partially submerged, but she no longer cared. Relief and amazement coursed through her as she wrapped the kitten in the hem of her shirt. She staggered back onto the algae slick bank, carefully stepping until she felt solid ground beneath her feet. The kitten shivered violently against her, water dripping off its ears. She cooed softly, gently rubbing her hand over the tiny head. After a few seconds, when she felt the kitten's trembling lessen, she pressed it close to her heart, scrolling through her mental list of what she needed to do next. She needed to dry this little creature and find a way to get it warm. Perhaps there was a convenience store nearby. She could buy a soft towel or a blanket. She had a jacket in the car that could keep the kitten from shivering. With her breath still labored, Lily made her way back up the path to the clearing where her car was parked. The kitten pressed gently to her chest. Her jeans were soaked from the calf down, and her hands shook slightly from the adrenaline and the chill, yet she felt a curious spark of triumph. She had briefly waded into water, something she had spent many years avoiding, to rescue a life. She had done it, even though fear clung to her like a shadow. And in that moment, the fear felt smaller than it had in years. By the time Lily reached her car, she had almost forgotten how drenched her clothes were. The kitten, mewing in soft protest, had begun to calm. She eased it onto the passenger seat, covering it with her jacket. The creature's fur was starting to dry in fluffy patches, revealing faint stripes along its tiny body, and its eyes glistened with cautious relief. As Lily started the engine, she glanced sideways at her new companion. She felt a tender warmth blossom in her chest. The responsibility of caring for an animal, this fragile life, felt urgent and empowering, replacing the trembling edges of panic with determined action. She drove to the closest convenience store and parked. After ensuring the kitten was tucked in safely, she dashed inside to buy some clean towels and a small tub of water, in case the kitten needed to drink. She also bought a can of tuna and some kitten-safe food packets. The store owner, a kindly older woman, asked if everything was okay. When Lily explained she had just rescued a kitten from the pond, the woman's face lit up with gentle admiration. It was the first time in ages Lily saw that look directed at her, a mixture of respect and gratitude. She felt her cheeks grow warm. Out in the car, Lily carefully dried the kitten's fur. She draped a fresh towel over her lap, gently laying the kitten on it and rubbing little circles to wick away the moisture. Although it was still trembling, the kitten seemed to relax under her ministrations. It even emitted a faint purr when she scratched between its ears. Lily smiled to herself, whispering, "You're safe now." That simple phrase held layers of meaning for her. She was guaranteeing security not just for the kitten, but also, in some strange way, for that part of her soul that had been locked in watery fear for so long. She called a veterinarian's office to check if they had any immediate appointments open. They suggested she bring the kitten in for a quick exam to confirm it hadn't ingested too much water or sustained any. Lily didn't hesitate. Something told her that if she was going to keep this kitten, she wanted to start off on the right foot, ensuring its health and safety from the get-go. She drove there, taking care to drive slowly and avoid bumps. The waiting room at the vet's office was a symphony of yips and meows. Lily clutched the kitten in her arms, marveling at her own ability to remain calm despite her still damp clothes. A slender vet technician approached with a clipboard. She smiled when she saw the kitten. "A little fighter, huh?" the technician said, gently scratching the kitten's chin. Lily simply nodded, feeling another wave of protectiveness rise inside her. Soon, the vet took them to an exam room where the kitten was checked for any signs of water in the lungs or internal injuries. The verdict was encouraging. The kitten had been extremely lucky, escaping more than a bit of shock and minor scrapes. With some rest, food, and warmth, it would likely bounce back quickly. As Lily carried the kitten out of the clinic, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. She cradled this small life against her chest, feeling how fragile yet determined it was. Its vibrant eyes blinked up at her as though asking, "Where to now?" Lily took a moment to wonder if she was prepared to commit to the kitten. She knew she couldn't simply walk away. This experience had already changed her on a deep level. Her protective instincts were in full bloom, and she couldn't fathom giving the little creature away to a shelter. She decided then and there that they would remain together. It was on the day she first overcame her terror of water, at least briefly, that a new friendship was forged. After returning home, Lily prepared a soft bed and a laundry basket lined with the fresh towels she had purchased. She placed it in the warmest corner of her living room. After nibbling on some tuna flakes and lapping up a little dish of water, the kitten soon dozed off, its tiny sides rising and falling with each breath. Lily found she couldn't look away from the scene. In some ways, the kitten's rescue felt symbolic, like the beginning of a new chapter in life. She told herself she was just being sentimental, but she couldn't shake the sense that something about her day had taught her an invaluable lesson about facing fear. In the quiet of the evening, Lily found her mind drifting back to the moment she reached into the water. She pictured how the cold seeped into her arms, but what she remembered more profoundly was the wave of determination that coursed through her. She could no longer pretend that her personality was irreconcilably bound to fear. She had just proven otherwise. In saving the kitten, she had brushed against a wellspring of courage that she had previously never been able to tap into. It felt foreign, yet exhilarating. She wondered if she could foster that feeling in a more intentional way. The next morning, Lily woke to the soft meows of her new companion. After feeding the kitten and refreshing its water, she settled on the couch, sipping her coffee and letting the morning sun paint the room golden. She found herself scrolling through articles about gradually overcoming aquaphobia. Sites recommended gentle exposure therapy, starting with shallow wading and moving on to deeper waters with the help of a trained instructor. Lily stared at the pages in a mixture of confusion and excitement. She asked herself, "Am I really ready to take this step?" But a gentle glance at the kitten, whose lively spirit was returning now that it was rested, seemed to mirror the same question. "You saved my life," the kitten's eyes seemed to say. "Will you choose to save your own?" Lily set her coffee mug down, feeling her hands tremble slightly, but not from fear. This time, it was from a new determination. She realized she owed it to herself to try. That afternoon, she called a local recreation center that offered adult swimming lessons. Initially, she planned to hang up immediately if her nerves got the better of her, but the friendly voice of the receptionist put her at ease. She was informed that a new session was starting in a few days for absolute beginners, taught by an understanding instructor who specialized in working with individuals who had water trauma. It felt fated, somehow, that the timing aligned so perfectly. Her heartbeat thrummed in her ears as she signed up, fully aware that any moment now she could begin second-guessing her decision. Yet, once she confirmed the class and set the phone down, she felt an anchor of resolve settle inside her. The next few days were a whirlwind of new routines and tender moments with the kitten. She discovered the kitten was a female and decided to name her River, a playful nod to the water that had nearly claimed her life. River took to the new name immediately, or so Lily imagined, because the kitten would respond with a soft mew whenever Lily would call out, "River!" across the living room. Despite the cuteness and warmth that filled Lily's days, she also struggled mightily with the knowledge that soon she would have to face her phobia directly. A voice in her head whispered doubts as the lesson approached. "You hardly managed a few inches of water. How will you handle an entire pool?" Nonetheless, Lily arrived at the aquatic center for her first class, dressed in a modest swimsuit covered by a long t-shirt. She noticed a few other adults standing around, a palpable tension in the air as they hovered near the edge of the pool. An instructor appeared, a woman named Grace, who introduced herself in a calm, reassuring tone. Grace invited them all to sit on the ledge and let their legs dangle in the water. Lily swallowed hard. Memories of the drowning sensation flickered in her thoughts, but she inhaled slowly, recalling how she had cradled the frightened kitten, pouring her entire spirit into saving that life. Inspired by that memory, she eased herself onto the pool's edge and let her legs slip into the water. Though her pulse pounded, she didn't faint or panic. Progress, she told herself. Small but meaningful progress. Over the next few lessons, Grace taught them slow, mindful techniques to ease anxiety. Stepping into the water waist deep, feeling the gentle push of water against their bodies, controlled breathing, floating on their backs with support from a foam board. Each milestone brought its share of trembling nerves, but Lily managed to keep the image of River's tiny face in her mind. She remembered the day she had risked falling into that pond's murky depths to save a life dearer to her than her own fear. In that recollection, she found the thread of bravery she needed to push forward. One evening, after a particularly challenging practice session, Lily returned home to find River perched on the back of the couch, staring at the door as though waiting to greet her. The kitten hopped down, weaving around Lily's ankles, purring loudly. Lily bent to pick her up, burying her nose in the warm fur. The single, courageous act of saving River had left reverberations that she never could have anticipated. This delicate creature had lifted Lily out of a paralyzing mindset, opening a doorway to possibilities. No one had forced her to take her first steps back into the water. She had made that choice herself, inspired by love. As the weeks passed, Lily persisted in her lessons. Though the fear hadn't vanished entirely, she felt herself growing more confident. She learned to float on her back unassisted, her arms stretched out, the water supporting her weight. During one practice, Grace stood nearby, whispering calming words. Feel the water hold you. Trust that it won't let you sink if you remain calm and steady your breathing. Lily closed her eyes, focusing on the subtle pulse of the water against her skin. She pictured River's bright eyes, urging her forward. A sense of stillness bloomed in her chest, a quiet acceptance of the water cradling her body. Her heart pounded less fiercely, and she managed a moment of peace. With each triumph in the pool came a surge of self-esteem. She realized that by troubling herself to drive out to the pond that day, by deciding to do something to rescue another creature, she had inadvertently rescued a part of herself. Her fear, formerly a dictator controlling her decisions, now felt more pliable, a challenge to be faced rather than an unyielding barrier. She found herself longing to share the story with the friends and family who had gently teased her in the past, wanting to show them that she wasn't the same girl who shrank at the sight of water. Finally, the day arrived for their last official lesson. Grace had laid out a goal for each person: swim across the width of the pool unassisted in any stroke they felt comfortable using. Lily prepared for the test with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. She could feel adrenaline coursing through her limbs. She remembered how that same surge of adrenaline once made her want to flee from water, but now it felt like a current driving her forward. An undercurrent of determination. When it was her turn, Lily eased into the water, knees bent, hands gripping the pool edge. She closed her eyes, inhaled deeply, and pushed off. She felt the water envelop her, and for a moment, a twinge of old fear constricted her chest. But she managed to keep her composure, reminding herself she wasn't alone and that she had worked hard for this. She performed a series of small strokes, a variation of the breaststroke that Grace had taught them. Her form wasn't perfect, but she advanced steadily, her breathing rhythmic. She didn't worry about sinking because somewhere along the journey, she had learned to trust her body and the water. Bit by bit, the far side of the pool grew closer. Her arms began to burn from the effort and her lungs strained with each breath, but she kept going. She pictured River's face waiting at home, that trusting gaze that depended on Lily's bravery for a good life. Then, with a triumphant gasp, her fingertips touched the tiled wall on the other side. She had done it. Lily blinked water from her eyes and heard the applause of her classmates. Grace beamed at her from across the pool. Lily gripped the wall, letting the achievement wash over her. A breathless laugh, part sob, part sigh, escaped her lips. She lifted her face toward the ceiling lights, letting the droplets of pool water trail down her cheeks. Even though she was exhausted, she felt a surge of gratitude and fulfillment so intense she could hardly speak. In the locker room afterward, Lily changed into her dry clothes, her fingers trembling from excitement rather than fear. She reflected back on that day at the pond. She had arrived simply seeking a quiet place. She never expected such a transformative unfolding. She never imagined she would pull a drenched kitten out of dangerous waters, or that the act would be the catalyst to face the phobia she'd carried for so long. When she finally stepped outside, Lily noticed the world looked brighter than usual. Evening light reflected on her car's windshield, and the sky was awash in soft pink and orange hues. A gentle wind caressed her face. She felt a renewed sense of possibility, eager to return home, cuddle River, and celebrate her victory in some small but meaningful way. She drove with the windows slightly open, letting the crisp air fill the car. Her thoughts drifted to the idea of visiting the pond again, this time with River in the safety of a carrier, perhaps to stand on the bank and watch the sunlight dance across the surface without the old terror gripping her heart. She imagined taking short nature walks, maybe even venturing into shallow streams in the future. The notion that water could become an ally, a place of calm and reflection rather than dread, felt both exhilarating and surreal, yet it no longer seemed impossible. Arriving home, Lily was greeted by River's enthusiastic scamper on the hardwood floor. Lily scooped her up, spinning once in a playful swirl, feeling an almost childlike delight. "I did it," she whispered to River. The kitten purred, wriggling into the crook of Lily's arm. "You helped me be brave," she added, pressing her cheek to the kitten's soft fur. In that moment, she realized that sometimes it takes dedicating ourselves to something beyond our own fears to unlock a well of courage. The rescue had led her down a path of self-discovery that no gentle urging or scolding from friends and family could have achieved. Over the next weeks, Lily occasionally revisited her memories of that fateful rescue. She understood that fear doesn't simply vanish overnight. Even now, she felt a jolt of anxiety when stepping into an unfamiliar body of water or letting her feet dangle off a boat deck. But the difference was in how she responded to the fear. She no longer allowed it to chain her. It was a companion she acknowledged but refused to let govern her choices. That shift from bondage to acceptance felt liberating beyond measure. And beyond the realm of aquatics, Lily noticed a shift in her day-to-day interactions. She spoke up more at work presentations. She volunteered for tasks that might otherwise have intimidated her. She even felt braver in communicating her emotions to family and friends. The blossoming of courage in one area of her life spilled over into everything else, like a single seed that grows into a flourishing vine, branches stretching in all directions. River remained her constant companion through it all, the tiny spark of life that had awakened a dormant strength within Lily. Friends and neighbors would stop by and marvel at the once drenched kitten transformed into a regal, confident cat, resting on the windowsill or curled in Lily's lap. Billy would sometimes share the story in bits and pieces, explaining that it was River who saved her just as much as she saved River. Whenever Lily visited grandparents or close friends, she brought with her a refreshing sense of self-assurance. Contrary to the earlier version of Lily, who would avoid gatherings at the beach or pool parties, she now accepted invitations, even if she didn't always jump in the water. Just being there near the waves was a victory in itself. She found the courage to let her feet touch the surf, a testament to how far she had come from the trembling girl at the edge of a swimming pool. The resonance of that transformation continued to surprise her. On a sunny weekend afternoon, Lily finally returned to the pond as she had promised herself she would. River stayed at home this time. Lily wanted to see the place on her own. Standing at the grassy bank, hearing the faint rustle of leaves, Lily felt only a gentle, respectful awareness of the water rather than abject horror. She let herself remember the frantic meowing that had first drawn her to the rescue. A soft breeze caressed her hair, and she felt a surprising surge of gratitude for the place that had once been the catalyst for change. Squatting down, she dipped her fingertips into the water. It was cool and soothing against her skin. She held her hand there for a while, letting the warmth of daylight and the gentle melody of the surroundings fill her chest with a quiet sense of achievement. She no longer felt that she had to run or hide from her phobia. She would forever bear in mind those terrifying moments, the grip of panic, the thrash of water. But they no longer paused her life in its tracks. Instead, they served as a reminder of what she overcame and the unexpected gift she received in the process. It amazed her to think how a tiny, vulnerable kitten had led her to the very healing she'd been seeking. A demonstration that true bravery often blooms through acts of compassion. As Lily stood to head back to her car, she smiled at the reflection of herself in the pond's surface. She wasn't running away. She was looking at her own reflection, poised with a peace she hadn't known before. Sometimes it takes risking a piece of ourselves for the sake of another to discover the well of strength that's been inside us all along. For Lily, that well of strength had always been there, but only by saving that little kitten had she found the spark to unlock it. The ripples in the pond marked changes in her life, expanding outwards in circles, each gentle wave signifying that growth had come full circle. Lily let herself breathe in that moment, full of pride, humility, and relief. Then she turned and walked away from the pond, confident that she would never forget that day. One small rescue had sparked her own. She placed a hand over her heart, thinking once more of River, the cat that was now at home, purring warmly in a sunlit patch on the living room floor, and she felt a sweet warmth spread through her. A life saved, a fear conquered, and a future bright with possibilities.